Good morning, everyone. Mark Frederic, Le Charcuterie Anglais. Good to see you this morning. Just got an old book out here. Occasionally go through old books just for inspiration and to remind me of certain products. So when I'm teaching, I can think, oh, I haven't taught that in a long while. So books like this come in very handy. This one's in poor shape, unfortunately, but oh yeah, I'll just show you that got this given to me by Jimmy Doherty, at who I like very much. And I was down on his farm, Jimmy's farm. So I helped out on a few occasions, teaching them and advising them on a few things for their Friday night feast program with his mate Jamie Oliver, of course. So anyway, I've lost my page now, but oh no, I got the page back. But, I was just looking at Cumberland sausage, and there they use PAB, in their ingredients, as they do with a lot of sausages. This book, by the way, was printed in 1922, so over 100 years ago. And so PAB, what is it? Now, I need you to tell me what is the correct definition of PAB. No guesses, please. But if you've got the answer, if you've got the definitive answer, please drop me a line and tell me. To this day, I've never worked out exactly what PAB is. I can guess, but I don't want to guess. I want to know. So if you know, PAB, it's a binder, all right, for sausage making. And please let me know. Drop me a message. Interestingly, in this Cumberland recipe, by the way, they offer a couple of recipes, but this sausage is never linked. That's probably why they come in rounds, but we seem to have lost our way over the years, haven't we? We rarely do Cumberland rings now, but there we are. So never linked. I love these books. Anyway, that reminded me of a question that came in a short while ago, which I've been holding on to. What is the best binder for sausage making? Well, it's down to you. It's what you prefer, isn't it? But we in the old days we used to put in breadcrumbs, and very often the bread was soaked in milk or water if you were really poor, and before putting into your sausage mix, which for me a little bit was a bit like defeating the object. Would you not prefer to put it in dry, and that would help retain the added water that you would put in and things like that? So and then you got more control of putting the water into the mix. If you've already got all your binder soaked up, that water's already there. You can't take it out if it's too much, So anyway, that's something else, I suppose. But it is linked. Oh, excuse the pun. Oh, this is where I become the king of the bad jokes. Yeah. So the downside to breadcrumbs is if you're using it, especially from fresh bread, you've got yeast still in the active yeast still in the product. Okay. So when that bread is in a sausage mix, it can turn the pork sour very quickly, within days. So because we normally will give, well, certainly in UK, we'll give sausages roughly about a 7-day shelf life. Other countries it can be different, different geographical regions and weather conditions, etc., and storage conditions. But in UK, roughly we give sausages, about a 7-day shelf life, give or take. And but the minute you put in bread with active yeast still in the bread, then you can shorten your sausage life down to about 3 days. It will be sour. Now, most of you would probably then throw those sausages away. But sour sausages are also a choice of sausage for certain people, and Thailand is one of those places. They actually make a sausage, and they ferment it outside, so they allow it to go sour, and they hang it in the sun, over their washing lines and everything. Usually short, stubby little sausages. I forgot the name right now, and but there's a couple of different varieties. But anyway, I've got to get back on track. We're talking binders. So what else can you use as a binder? Well, gluten-free very often comes up. People are searching for gluten-free binders. And some years ago, I was asked a question from somebody, again, Thailand it was, turned around and said, I'm in Thailand, it's not easy to get bread, to make breadcrumbs, to make a binder to put in my sausages. What else can I use? And I thought, hello, Thailand, are we? Do they grow rice in Thailand? But I had to control myself a little bit and give a polite answer. So yeah, rice is a great alternative, especially if you're looking for gluten-free sausages. So pre-cooked rice, that is. You can use dry rice, but that's for a different kind of sausage. But in the main, fresh sausages, cooked rice, and use that. In fact, we use a lot of that in the Maldives. Some of the luxury resorts where we teach sausage making and things, we use a lot of leftover rice from the evening before buffets and stuff. So so you've got rice, but I want to go back. In some ways, it's a naughty word. I want you to go back to the supermarket, because it's the best way to describe it. Go down the breakfast cereal aisle, all right, and you will find shelves, enormous shelves full of various sausage binders. And they're all disguised as breakfast cereals. Don't know why. So cornflakes. Why do they call them cornflakes? It's a sausage binder. And then oatmeal. Again, why is it called oatmeal? It's a sausage binder. Of course, I'm joking. But look at everything down there, down these aisles. There's all the imaginable sausage binders you can think of. And yeah, so there's a good place to start. So there's a Spelt. You try using Spelt. There's another good one. So you can make a binder pretty much out of anything. Corn flour. The list just goes on and on and on. So, but the ones I used probably predominantly is rusk, of course, because rusk is, in layman's terms, it's bread with the yeast baked out of it, and this is where you can help yourself as well. Actually, if you have got a lot of leftover bread, or you're close to a bakery, that has leftover bread, and you crumb it, then cover baking trays with your crumb and put it in the oven, the dead heat of an oven. So you don't want the oven on. You want to use the dead heat of it if you can, or on very, very low, and bake out the remaining yeast within that crumb, and then you'll be all right. So, but the two I mainly use is shall we say three, would be breadcrumb, if I use the sausage quickly, rusk, and rice. And there's all kinds of rice, brown rice, red rice, and they're all pretty good. White rice tends to be the better one, because it's fluffier and more absorbent. Some of the brown rice and red rice tend to be, albeit good for people with diabetes, actually, red rice. They don't tend to absorb as much as the white rice does. So, but cornflakes is an absolute cracker. So if you're struggling on making a small batch, just get yourself a cup full of cornflakes, crumb it, put it in a pestle and mortar or a little mini, whatever you call them, food processor, get your crumb and put it into your sausage that way. So, yeah, so that's what I do. But I also like sausages without binder myself. And some countries in Europe, it's forbidden. It's against the law to use binders. So binders tend to be, in the main, a British thing, British style of sausages. And it's great. It's good. I like that style of sausage. I do also like the German style of sausage and some of the other European sausages, like the Toulouse, for example. I think that's an absolute cracking sausage. Again, I'm digressing, but the Toulouse, if you look at the recipe of a Toulouse sausage, it's almost identical to the original Cumberland sausage that the Germans brought over. So very, very simple ingredients at same size casings, 32 millimeter, and yeah, coarse grind. So yeah, really good. So I like those sausages too. So with over there, you could, if you wanted to make a sweeter sausage, you could use certain cakes. And ginger cake is, ginger cake is a good one, and it's got nice fine crumb, pretty absorbent. That will work well in certain sausages. The ginger cake particularly, if you're making pork and banana sausage, which we make a lot of out in Asia, mainly for children. So we get, they get called for quite often. So so what else? What other binders have we got? Well, you can, potato. Yeah, potato's a real easy one. When I was in France, when I had my shop in France, boucherie charcuterie shop, I had a lady come in, and she said, I miss the sausages my butcher made back in the UK, so of course, like, I'm tuning in, so I asked her, like, what did he make you? And she said, pork, leek and mashed potato. And I thought, well, I've never heard of that one. Pork and leek, yes, and but never heard of pork, leek and mashed potato. But when she said it, I kind of, immediately I got, I was in there. I knew why the potato was there. So and I said, look, I can make you these, no problem, but it'd have to be a minimum order, £20, because that's how butchers make sausages normally, is in £20 batches. That's why your seasonings, if you buy them like from Lucas, are in 227 grams, because that's one bag of seasoning is for a £20 mix. So anyway, I said 20, I'd have to make you 20 £20 of sausage, which is about 9 kilo in France. So and she said, yeah, if you can make them, she said, yeah, I'll happily take that, and I'll freeze them down. So I said, okay, we agreed. And so I made these pork, leek and mashed potato, using mashed potato as a binder for the first time. And of course I sampled them and tried them, and wow, I was impressed. I'd learned something. So whoever her butcher was, only what I know was she came from Lincolnshire. So and she had pork, leek and mashed potatoes made by a butcher there, and I was able to replicate it for her, and I was impressed with the recipe. So always good. So I mentioned Lincolnshire then, and I don't know why when I say this, we've spoken before about Cumberland getting protective status, and then when Lincolnshire applied for their Lincolnshire sausage, which is also a sausage with sage, mainly chopped sage as an added ingredient, they got refused, and I never understood that. And I think they explained it away as that Lincolnshire sausage was well replicated in other parts of the UK, so it couldn't be it couldn't be given protective status, which I thought, bollocks. If you can give it to Cumberland, because Cumberland's made everywhere also, you can give it to Lincolnshire. So I feel, for those of you in Lincolnshire who wanted to get protective status for your sausage, I feel sorry for you. But I'm not the biggest fan of this geographical protection status. I know they mean well, but sometimes I think they lose their way. I'm digressing again. I'm sorry. I've got myself on the train. So it just reminds me of Stornoway Black Pudding when they got protective status. Well, actually, it was just before they got protective status, and just before that, I learned Stornoway had applied for protective status, and don't get me wrong, I think it's a fantastic black pudding, and and I adore butchers around the country, including Isle of Lewis and everything. But it was just like, well, wait a minute, what's geographical status all about? In my mind, okay, in here, and I'm thinking local ingredients, So I thought, I just can't imagine why Stornoway could get protective status, because they were using dry blood, which was coming from Europe. I think it was Holland at the time. And all their other added ingredients, including spices. Of course, spices are not native to the Isles of Lewis, and came from abroad. The pigs were from the mainland, so there wasn't even any pork going into the black pudding that came from the island. And the only original ingredient that went into their black pudding, and I think it probably remains the same today, is the water. And I thought, well, how can you get geographical protective status where the one ingredient, water, is the only ingredient from your local area? And so maybe I've got a different interpretation of what geographical status is, and it seems to be, I think I know the answer. It's more about protecting the recipe, not being scored upon local ingredients, which I think is a shame. But there we are. See, I've gone off track. They're supposed to be talking about binders, but they do have binders in black puddings, so maybe you can forgive me. So which would be, it could be anything, oats, barley, that type of thing. Again, Isles of Lewis don't grow that, do they? So there we are. So a bit of interesting information on binders. If you want deeper information, then send me a message. I don't want. My videos are already too long, and I need to learn when to shut up. But the last thing I want to say is, please support my videos by going into the information underneath and buy me a coffee if you don't mind, please. Okay, it'll help support this video making and other good fundraising causes. Okay, till the next time, toodaloo.